Good evening and warm welcome to all the participants. I take pleasure in inviting you to this 113th leadership conversation. This day, we are joined by Ms. Sangeeta Shankaran Sumesh. Please join me in inviting and welcoming her. Good evening, ma'am, and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
We are so delighted that we are all waiting to hear from you. All the participants are ready. We will kickstart this with an introductory presentation. I will take about 5 minutes or so to introduce and then hand it over back to you. Allow me to share my screen, please. These are Wise Views Leadership Conversations held on Fridays. We are at 113th. The topic today is Get High, Coach Yourself for High Performance Leadership. This is handled by Ms. Sangeeta Shankaran Sumesh, as I mentioned just now. So after this introduction, we'll have about roughly 20-25 minutes of the opening talk by the leader, followed by 2 clusters of Q&A, and then we'll sum it up. That's roughly about an hour, but generally it goes beyond that. I take once again great pleasure in introducing the speaker. She's a Chief Financial Officer turned business and leadership coach, contributing by maximizing potential, performance, and profits. She's also an independent director on corporate roads. Ms. Sangeeta is on a mission to enable, empower, and elevate businesses with a purpose to serve corporate leaders and teams to shine and succeed. She brings along a rich corporate experience of 25 years with MNCs, and her latest position was the Executive Director and CFO of the prestigious Dun & Bradstreet Technologies. Several accolades she received, and some of them are like this: Nightingale Award by the Society of Auditors, Leading Woman CFO, Innovator in Finance, 100 Inspiring Authors of India, Outstanding Professional Award given by IFCAI. She is a mother of 2. She balances her personal, professional, and spiritual life and social life, as well as an art of living practitioner. Ms. Sangeeta is a CA, management accountant, and completed executive education from the prestigious Harvard Business School. She is a credentialed coach from the International Coaching Federation, PCC, TEDx, and global professional speaker and best-selling author. Once again, welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us.
Thank you.
I will also take one more moment to introduce my esteemed colleague, Professor R. Prasad. He is the Director of Academic Wing. He brings with himself a rich experience of 3 decades. He was an entrepreneur, a corporate professional, and now an academic. He holds a BTech from IIT Bombay and a PGDM from IIM Kolkata. He published several books, articles, and presented papers in conferences in India and abroad. With this, I once again welcome you, ma'am, and we are eagerly looking forward to understand the concepts of high-performance leadership, and in your own unique style, in the way you have mentioned in your book and various other forums where you have spoken. We are looking forward to learn from that and distill some lessons, how we can go back and apply in our own domains. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So my screen is visible.
Audio needs to be enhanced a little bit, ma'am.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Yeah.
High performance.
Yes. And you can see my screen as well, right? Okay. Okay. So a warm, cool good evening to all the participants who are watching this. And it's a pleasure and delight. And thank you so much to Mr. Sudhakar Rao for inviting me, and to Mr. Prasad. So thank you so much. It's a delight to be here. So today I'm going to talk to you about Get High. You must be wondering what Get High is all about. So before I deep dive into it, I'd like you to answer this for me. Just think and tell me, how would you feel if you achieved something that you thought you cannot achieve? How would you feel if you are achieving something with great speed, efficiency, and finesse? How would you feel if you get consistently better at what you do? How does that make you feel? So go ahead and post it in the chat box on how these things make you feel. I'd like some interaction from all of you. So just think about it and let me know how that would make you feel. Anybody? Yes, I see somebody replying. Exciting. Yes, absolutely. Exciting. You feel on top of the world, and it definitely gives you a high, right? So that is what Get High is all about. So I always say, for you to get high, It's all in your hands. You don't need to depend on anything external to get high, but you can give yourself the high that you want because it's all within you, in your hands. So that is what is Get High about, and a warm welcome to all of you again on today's session, which is how you can coach yourself for high performance leadership. And some of these things I'm going to talk to you and share with you are from my book, which is called Get High, How to Coach Yourself for High Performance in Your Work. Right, awesome. So I see some more answers. Lots of dopamine. Yes, absolutely. Feel good. Absolutely right, Chandrasekharan. Yes, absolutely right. Very, very true. So now, when I talk, say, high performance leadership and high performance teams, what comes to your mind? I'd like to hear from you. What comes to your mind? Can you give me an example of a high performance team? What is the price of the book? It's available on Amazon, so you can check it, and it's also available on some bookstores. And it gives you some templates, tips and tricks on how you can coach yourself for high performance. Chandra and team, yes, perfect, right on time. Just today we had Chandra and team. Absolutely right, great examples. Any other examples that come to your mind for high performance team? Okay, all right. So let me share with you, and I'm sure this image would, does that resonate with you as an example of high performance team? When our Indian cricket team won the 1983 World Cup, right? How they thought they would probably not, and just by one man who really, influenced the team and, created that impact and made our country proud by winning the World Cup for us. Yeah, disaster relief teams as well. Absolutely, yes. Be in the present for being in present lead you to high performance. Absolutely right, Dr. Vijay. Yes. Yes. So that is an example of how the Indian team went on to get consistently better at the game of cricket, and how they actually reached for the stars and, went and bagged the cup for us, right? Made the country so proud. So that is an example of high performance leadership and driving the teams. Any other person who comes to your mind for high performance leadership? Let me share this image, and I'm sure that would also resonate with you. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, right? Who is also a shining star example of high performance leadership. How in his career, he just grew and went on to becoming the president and leading our country. So those are some examples. Yes, Dhoni as well, absolutely. Yeah, the present footballer as well, absolutely right. Yes, you guys are awesome. You're coming up with some lovely examples. Yes. So these are some examples of the high performance leadership that we have seen, and there are many, many more. Like all of you have said, many, many other people around us who inspire us to get better at what we do. Now, if you were to look at the context of a business, I believe that there are 4 pillars for a business growth. What are they? Your leadership, your strategy, high performance, and of course, finance. Now, all of this, if you were to look at the base of all of this, it all depends on business partnering, because there's no one person who can achieve the magic. And it's important that everybody works together as a team by partnering together as business partners on these pillars, and that's what propels the growth for a business. So if you were to look at these pillars of business growth, you have both leadership as well as high performance, which is what we are going to be focusing on today's session. So if we were to get into the brass tacks, what is high performance? What do you think is high performance? Can you please share some thoughts? What is high performance? It is relative, absolutely right. But in your definition, what is high performance? What do you think is high performance? Right decision at the right time, instantaneously. Yes, very good. Yes. Because each of us can have different perspectives and different thought process of high performance. So it's always nice to share. Yes, beautiful answers. Consistent, efficient performance. Beautiful and wonderful. Yes, Chandrasekharan, exceeding expectations. Yes. Giving your 100%. Absolutely right. Yes. Awesome. You guys are rocking. So if you were to define it, all your answers are right. And if you were to kind of give it a definition, what does that look like is achieving superior results by performing at a high standard as per your set target. So when you know that you want to achieve something, when you perform by, at giving those superior results that you want and at a high standard, that's what will give you the high performance that you want. So what is high performance leadership? if you were to define high performance leadership, what does that look like? Oh, yes, Dr. Vijay. Yes, that's very nice to note. You struggled and how you got through your PhD. Awesome. Congratulations. Yes. So if you were to define high performance leadership, it is having a clear vision and inspiring others for growth. That is what is high performance leadership. Let me pause and share a little story out here with all of you. There were two friends, and both of them were princes, right? And each of them had their own kingdom, and both of them went to the same master, and they were trained in martial arts and other princely matters. Now, as they grew, and just when they were about to take charge of their kingdom, unfortunately, one of the princes, the enemy attacks the kingdom, kills the father, and the prince no longer has the kingdom, and he's no longer a prince. He's a pauper. He's like anybody else because the enemies shoo them away. Now, this prince doesn't know what to do. With great difficulty, he tries to contact and, manages to reach the kingdom of his friend. He goes there and he tells him, listen, my dear friend, this is what has happened to me. You have to please help me out. Guess what this other prince gives? This prince tells him, all right, I do see your condition. What I can do at the most to help you is, let me give you 100 sheep, cattle, right? I give you 100 sheep and see how you can manage and survive for your future. So this guy says, okay, at least my friend is giving me this. Let me see how I can go about it. So he takes the 100 sheep, takes them for grazing, and guess what? The wolves come and attack a lot of them, and he's not really able to take care of these, and most of them die. So after a few weeks, he goes back again to his friend and he says, oh, my friend, you know what? I have lost all the 100 sheep that you've given me. Can you please help me yet again? So the friend thinks, and this time he gives him 50 sheep. So you see, from 100 last time, he gives him 50. And guess what? Similar story. And again, after a few months, this friend comes back yet again to his friend, the prince, and he says, oh, my friend, I even lost the other 50 sheep that you gave me. Can you please help me yet again? And this time, the prince thinks, and he gives him just 25 sheep. So the prince, who was a pauper, understood. He said, yes, now it would look really bad if I have to go yet again to my friend and expect him to help. He has already helped me so much, and I have been inefficient, and I have not really managed to save my sheep. So this time he takes great care of the 25 sheep. He studies, he looks how the wolves are attacking, so he tries to put a fence. He looks at the other shepherd and how they are maintaining and then they're growing their cattle. So he also starts to become a good shepherd, protects the cattle, and also starts to rear them. And very soon, the 25 sheep that he had multiplied, grew, and he had more than 1,000 sheep. So after a couple of years, he goes back to his friend to express his gratitude and give thanks because, he says, now I know the art of how I can manage. Now, the friend, when he heard that, he was extremely thrilled. And he told him, you have been so good. You have become consistently better at what you do. You have learned your lessons. You know how to manage. And therefore, my friend, now I'm going to gift you a part of my kingdom. So you see, that is what is leadership about, where you really inspire others for growth. Instead of, telling him, preaching him, and, he could have always said, oh, this is not how you manage cattle. Can't you even manage sheep? Instead of asking all that, he let him evolve. He let him learn and find the ways, right? So that the inspiration that a leader can create, that is something is high performance leadership, where you get consistently better at what you do. So that is an example of high performance leadership. Now, if you were to go back to businesses, right? Now, let me give you this example of the RPG group, which consists of CET, KAC, and many other group companies. I did a 2-day offsite for their All India leadership team. And there was something that they were all very keen on. And what was that? In order to drive the growth of the company, they said something is very important. And what is that? That is high performance leadership. Because they realized high performance leadership is something that can really propel the business to grow further. And therefore, they wanted all their leaders to be high performing leaders and build high performing teams. So how does one go about building high performance team. By the way, I'd like to know, is there anybody here who doesn't want high performance? Is there anybody who thinks, oh, no, I don't want high performance, be it for myself or for my teams or for my, in the work that I do or my business? Yes, absolutely. Nobody says no to high performance. In fact, I have given so many talks on high performance and I'm yet to come across even somebody who says, no, I don't want high performance. Yes, that's a great question. Does it lead to burnout? That depends on you, on how you manage yourselves, right? So we will look at that as well as we go along. High performance, you should know where to draw your limits, know your boundaries, but at the same time, see how you can get better and become a better version of yourself, right? So I have never seen anybody who says no to high performance. So how does a business drive and how can a business build the culture of high performance? Let's look at that. I'm going to give you a small part or snippet of what my workshop was for RPG group leaders. So I say there are 6 different aspects of building a high performance culture at work. First, learn to harness your team's energy, right? Get to your leverage on the strengths of your team. And it's not that just one person or a few people contribute, but as a team, if you want to build and win, you need to get everybody's energy from the team. And therefore, to be a successful high performance leader, you need to harness the energy of your team. Second, your team must have the freedom to try new things, right? Do they have the comfort level to go ahead and try, even if they're going to fail? So check for their freedom to try new things. High performance is all about continuous improvement. And therefore, when you're building a high performance culture, see how you can get better at what you do. The learning drive is something very important and essential because for you to stay updated with the current changes and the trend, your learning drive becomes very important. Emotional intelligence is the 5th thing. That's yet again something so important. And sometimes leaders tend to neglect it, but now I think a lot of people have understood the importance of emotional intelligence, and therefore that becomes yet another important aspect of driving high performance culture. Last but not the least is being outcome oriented. Why are you doing what you're doing? So that you know what is propelling you, what is the outcome that has been desired. And therefore, in order to build a high performance culture, these 6 aspects again help in building and driving the high performance culture. Now let's look at high performance and leadership. I say a leader drives high performance. And can a leader achieve by himself? No, he needs his team, right? And the leader also has to strategize how he wants to grow the business. He or she wants to grow the business, which in turn will lead to the financial success of the business. And therefore, all these things become very important. If you notice in the image, the leader strategizes for financial success, drives high performance teams, and the team and the leader together achieve the financial success for the business. And why is that? Because if you want your business to grow, this becomes something, an integral part of your business growth. So if we were to just move on, how can one build a high performance leadership strategy? Let me share this with you. It's an acronym because acronyms are easy to remember and your recall value is also high. So I'll give you a framework on how you can build your high performance leadership strategy. And I would request you to, once you get back, you can think over it and design your strategy. So as a leader, first step, it starts with you. So leading self. How are you leading your own self? Because as a leader, you're looked upon by people, right? So are you leading yourself in a manner that is inspiring your teams? So leading self. The T stands for teams. Because as a leader, you also have to lead your teams. So how efficiently and successfully are you leading your teams? O is the organization, leading the entire organization. Do you have those capabilities, those traits, and the characteristics to lead an organization? C is to lead change. We are living in an era where change happens so fast and so quick. So are you in a position to lead change and keep pace with the changing times. And K are the keys. Your keys for your leadership, for your high performance leadership. Now, these keys can vary person to person and business to business, but these keys are the core of your high performance leadership. So go ahead and define your keys. What actually propels your high performance leadership? So my friends, take stock of your leadership strengths, and how you can go about and build your high performance leadership strategy. So my request to you, like I said, is see, using this framework, how can you build your high performance leadership strategy? Now, if you were to move on, what are some of the distinguishing skills that a high performance leader possesses? So let's check that out, right? A high performance leader leads by example, because like I already mentioned, people look up to the leaders, right? And if you are a high performance leader, the people, your team, tend to follow suit and therefore lead by example. You inspire your team to take the required actions, right? And you get the best out of your team. As a leader, you know their strengths and how to leverage and achieve the desired outcome. So as a leader, how are you inspiring your teams? Are you a good listener? Because listening is a very important skill, because you know what is the thought process happening with your team members. So are you a good listener? Do you have good listening skills? Check that out. Questions, the powerful questions. A high performance leader asks powerful questions that makes one to think, reflect, and take the right action that's required. So ask the right questions. A high performance leader also builds the trust amongst the people. People feel safe. They have psychological safety to open up and share their thought processes, right? And therefore, building trust, not only just with your team members, but also amongst the team members, is an important skill that a high performance leader possesses. High performance leader is always there to support the team members, right? So are you supporting your team members during the times that they need? And even not just that, every other time when they need something, are you there to support them? Then comes communication. A high performance leader is effective in his communication. And therefore, how effectively are you communicating? Because communication is the key to getting things done. Last but not the least, a high performance leader knows how to connect well with the team members and establish the right rapport and the connection and builds bridges. So how efficiently and effectively are you connecting with your team members? So those are some distinguishing skills that a high performance leader possesses. I would urge you to think and rate yourself against these and see how you can improve your high performance leadership skills. You may have the high performance leadership skills. Now, it's also essential as a high performance leader to lead your teams, right? So how can you go about doing that? Now, this was a workshop that I did for the CXO club, right? The CEOs, CMOs, CHROs, CFOs of different organizations. I did a workshop for them on how they can get better as in their leadership skills and how they can lead high performance teams. Now, there was something beautiful that came out of this workshop, and I'm sharing those pointers here with you. First thing they said was, we need to be better listeners, because most of the time we think, oh, I know it all, and we seldom listen to our team members. And therefore, again, listening comes up as an important skill to be a high performance leader who can lead and drive high performance team. The second most important thing, appreciation. Now tell me, who doesn't like to be appreciated on a job that's well done? So go ahead, see how you can appreciate your team members and the people around you, and be genuine while you're appreciating on something that they've accomplished really well. Learning, right? Are you a continuous learner? Are you updated with what's happening in your domain, right? So see how you can keep track of the latest and keep learning continuously. The fourth one they shared was about ego. All of us have ego, and as we grow in our careers and get the experience, our ego also tends to grow. But they said, can we put aside our ego and probably even learn from our juniors, from our subordinates, and see how we can grow and support each other by putting aside the ego. And last but not the least, they said is, can we be mindful of all the actions that we take? Because we are the role models for our team, right? So can we be mindful in our behavior, in our action, in the words that we speak? And that will help us to lead high performance teams. So these are again some of the traits that will help in leading high performance. And of course, these are some brainstorming growth workshops that I do where organizations want to drive and build high performance teams, drive the high performance culture, and ensure the business propels and grows leaps and bounds. So these are some workshops. And of course, if you think your organization or anybody needs some bit of support, I'm happy to help and support and contribute to your business growth. Let me conclude with a little story. Okay, sorry, these are some of my clients with whom I work with. And yes, happy to connect with all of you. You can find me as the Gain Enabler. I'm active on LinkedIn and other social media. And YouTube, I keep sharing a lot of videos on leadership, high performance, finance, and strategy. So feel free to subscribe and, go ahead. And yes, these are my books. They are available on Amazon. A Glance at the Unknown is a spiritual thriller. What the Finance is a bestseller. It talks about finance, simplifies finance for businesses. Get High is what we spoke about now, how to coach yourself for high performance in your work. And Where's the Moolah is the financial growth hacks for better business profitability. So before I ask you to share your learnings and takeaways and the actions that you want to do, let me conclude with a small story here. A group of tradesmen, right? They had to cross a desert because they knew that there was some large amount of business that was waiting for them. Unfortunately, they lost their way. And they didn't know how to go about in the desert because it was very difficult for them to navigate their ways. Therefore, what they did, they took help of a guide who knew the desert and who could take them through. So the guide told them, my dear tradesmen, I can help you, take you all and cross the desert. I have the required camels that you want, which will take you through, but this is going to take you about 3 nights. During the day, it's very, very hot. And therefore, I wouldn't suggest that, we cross the desert during the day. What we could do is we could rest during the day and cross at night. So the leader of this tradesman agreed to that. And he thought what the guide said made sense. And therefore, what they did during the day, they rested. And during the night, they were crossing the desert. So the first 2 nights went pretty well. The third night, they had crossed almost 75% of the desert. They knew early morning they would have crossed the desert and reached. But the human mind, you know how it is. So the third night, everybody felt a little lethargic. They thought, oh, okay, we've already come. And because of the tiredness and everything, people slept. The guide, the leader, and all the tradesmen. So they were on top of the camel. And each camel, since they were not guided, the camels started going in circles. And guess what? In the morning when they woke up, they found out to their dismay that they were at the same place. They hadn't moved at all. So now all the tradesmen started blaming their leader. Said, you should have just woken up. You could have taken up the responsibility. What is this now? We don't have enough water. We're going to be stuck here. What's going to happen to our lives, our families, our business? Everything is going to get doomed. And they start blaming the leader. The leader thinks, he wonders what to do. And then suddenly he notices a tuft of grass that was grown. So he realizes that, grass has to grow. There has to be some water. So he quickly goes and then, he realizes and then he tells everybody in the group, he says, come, let's start digging because there must be water below. So everybody starts to dig and couple of hours, there's no sign of water. So again, everybody starts to blame the leader. Oh, you don't know anything. We've wasted our time and energy and, we just again going to be left without any water. The leader again thinks and he realizes, he puts his ear and then he could get the sound of water. And then they notice that there's a rock. So the leader asks the team members to again get to work and break the rock. And woof, they have a lot of water. The people are very happy and everybody appreciates the leader, right? So when you're driving high performance as a leader, do not give up easily. Think, get the support from all your team members, get their buy-in, see how you can influence them, how you can create the impact that you want, and thereby achieve what you want to achieve along with your team members. So that is what I wanted to share with all of you on high performance leadership. And I hope that all of you learn, grow, and are getting better at what you do and becoming high performance leaders. And now I'd like to hear from you on your takeaways, on your learnings, and what actions are you planning for your high performance leadership. So over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think last 30 minutes has been very interesting and high decibel kind of talking that you've been doing. You are a great connect with the audience, whether it is in person or online. I must congratulate you for establishing that wonderful connect in a short span of time.
Thank you.
While it may not be new in terms of defining leadership, several people have defined leadership, and each to their own way of looking in terms of what this leadership is all about. It is not the newness that is important. It is the approach and it is the framework. Through our questions and discussions and conversations, we will be testing this framework in the next few minutes. But I must thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful connect that you have provided. You have talked about not just the definition, but the strategies and the skills needed. Leadership is all about wonderful results. But between the leadership and the leadership thought and the results, how does one strategize, process it, and connect to people and take these team members along with oneself, leading them not just once, not just twice, but consistently over a period of time, and then establish that as a template for the organization to follow. It is not person dependent. When it is processed carefully, it is person dependent when it begins with it. So how do we institutionalize these performance trends and the strategies and the leadership templates is what we will have to learn and understand and apply back in our own domains. Thank you so much. I want to also mention that we have some great leaders who have joined this conversation. From around the screen, we have excellent people who have joined. They are hailing from all walks of life. Some of them are from technologies, people from sports.
Wow.
We have war veterans joining. Air Marshal Hari Kumar has joined. We have leaders from education. Dr. Raman Kumar Jha, thanks for joining from Jharkhand. We have Dr. Indrani Bhuyan joining from Shillong, Meghalaya. And we have many other leaders joining from Bangalore, Delhi, Gurgaon. Wow. As I can see, Pune, and of course, Hyderabad, and few from the Northeast, other states of Northeast as well. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining. And we are going to, this is not over, this is just the beginning. We are going to have these Q&A sessions. We will have two clusters Q&A. The first one will be taken up by Professor Prasad, and after that, I'll join for the second cluster. In the second cluster, please raise your hands. We will connect you. We'll open the mic with a facility for you to speak to the leader directly. So let's get going.
Thank you. You summarized my talk very well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I request Professor Prasad to commence the cluster number 1. Over to you, Professor Prasad, and thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. And thank you, ma'am, for introducing this topic so beautifully. It is an evergreen topic and particularly contemporary today, given the kind of ambitions that we have as a nation.
Yeah.
And the kind of situation that we are in currently. So I'll start with a personal question. You have been a CFO and now you're a leadership coach. So what brought about this journey and how do you connect to it with respect to the framework that you have presented?
Wonderful, wonderful question. Thanks for asking this. So for me, I've been in the corporate for 25 years, but I think about the last 5 years or so, I kept asking myself something. And what was that is I said, what is my purpose? And at the same time, I also realized, I said, if I could contribute to the success of one organization, how can I scale myself? How can I do more and see how I can contribute more? So this was the thought that was there in my head. And I was learning, I was evolving. So I was only trying to see how I could get better and, put together my experience of, the coaching skills, the what I had undergone as a coach, and with my background and everything, I said, what can I bring to the table? How can I value add and contribute and see businesses succeed? Because end of the day, I realized that's what I really wanted to do. And it was not like an overnight decision. It was very, very difficult for me, I must admit. And I kept evolving. I wasn't sure, but I knew this was what was my end destination. But the journey took some time. And, you know, after being in a corporate, it's not easy to give up the corporate job. So it did take quite some time. And I think, like I said, I evolved, I learned, and then I wanted to be sure that this was the path that I wanted to take. Yes.
Fantastic, ma'am. 2 points which come out is, I think one is the impact that you wanted to make. You wanted to accelerate the impact that you wanted to make, which you saw in an organization. And the second, I think, is it aligned with your personal aspiration.
Exactly.
We move to the next question, ma'am. How do we understand an individual's hidden talent, hidden leader, the talent of leadership within the person?
Yes, yes. So I would look at it in two ways. One is your hidden ones. The second is you probably know you may not have that particular skill, but how are you learning and acquiring? Because I personally believe that it's not that leaders are born, right? Leaders are made. And how are they made? By learning. So, you know, we again spoke about continuous learning. So by learning continuously, that also helps you to discover your hidden talents. You know, what is it that you like? So how you could also uncover your hidden talents is reading more, talking to people, getting feedback from your people, right? Upskilling yourself and taking time out to think and reflect to see what are those things that are important to you, and asking yourself, how can I be a better leader? I think these thoughts will help you evolve and get answers for what you want.
And if we were to apply this question to a member in the team who can be a potential leader and one wants to identify his hidden talent, then what would be the approach?
So you mean as a leader, you want to tell it to your team members? That
identify other leaders.
Yes. So, you know, it's always easier from an external perspective to identify what are the strengths others have, right? So to see how they can leverage on their strengths. So if you can pinpoint and encourage them and appreciate them, right? What we spoke about. And that by doing that, you're highlighting their strengths. And then they get the awareness, like, because many times we are not aware of our strengths as well as our blind spots unless and until somebody points it out for us. So as a leader, if you can just point that out to your team member to say, hey, you know, you did a great job. For example, your written communication is awesome, right? For example. So, or, you know, your the way you manage your team, like your team members, or, you know, the people relationships that you have is amazing. Maybe you're very good at conflict management, or probably you're too good at the negotiation strategy. So whatever that they have, so once you start highlighting it and encouraging them and appreciating them, I think it's easy to win that.
Fantastic, ma'am. So I think the first point that you mentioned is you provide the opportunities and see what comes out of it. And then from that, identify the strengths, and then what are them, appreciate them, and then see how they can grow.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Excellent, ma'am. So now we come to another question, and this is about, you know, what as per you is the difference between a coach and a mentor? What are the similarities and differences?
Okay, that's a great question. In fact, in my YouTube channel, you'll find an interesting podcast as well that talks about this difference. But at a very high level, a mentor is somebody who's been there, who's done that. And the mentor, out of interest, tells you, right? And like he tells you, you know, don't do this or do that based on his or her experience, right? And normally, if you need to work with a mentor, the mentor needs to choose you, right? Mentor must be willing to accept you as a mentee because they realize that you have the capabilities and they will be able to contribute and help you grow. So that's what a mentor is. Now, what does a coach do? A coach is somebody who partners with you, who facilitates your thinking, your reflection, who can be a sounding board, who can be a good listener, because in the coaching philosophy, we believe that if you have a challenge, you have the solution to it as well. So the coach enables you to come out with the best possible solutions by getting into conversations with you, asking powerful questions, listening to you, being your sounding board, challenging you with the questions and ensuring that you are walking the path that you need to walk. So that is the prima facie difference between the two.
And going by what you said, there seems to be a lot of coaching which is needed for high performance leadership from the leader.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
herself
so I
or
do work with corporate leaders and all their teams as well on enabling high performance and enhancing financial growth as a coach on one-on-one sessions as well as group sessions I do.
Fantastic, ma'am. There is a question on how do you identify your limitations? I mean, what are the ingredients of self-coaching? In a manner, you have said that, you mentioned that there. But if you have to identify your limitations and overcome the same, are there any points you'd like to come out with?
Right. So I would look at it again, in two ways. One is, see, everybody has limitations, right? But are those limitations serving you or not? Right? Because there could be some limitations, but it may not help you. Whether even with that limitation, you can still go ahead and pursue and grow in whatever you're doing, right? For example, somebody may not be a very good speaker, a public speaker, for example, but they may be doing an amazing job. They may be an excellent person when it comes to writing, right? Or, it may not be relevant, to somebody, the kind of role that they're doing. Let's say, for example, a person is a digital marketer. They don't have to speak. All they need is creativity and, come up with good stuff. So that could be a limitation, but it may not really bother you in what you're doing. So stuff like that, don't even waste your time and energy on stuff like that. Now, looking at the limitations that's related in what you do, that is going to help you in your growth. See how you can overcome that. So firstly, for that, you need to have the right kind of mindset to see, hey, awareness. Firstly, I would say first having the awareness, yes, this is a limitation, and then having the mindset to overcome that. And how can you do that? By upskilling yourself, learning from your peers. It could be through books, online, you have many things, right? Or YouTube, wherever, to see how you can learn and outcome the limitations that are really limitations in your growth. So identify them into limitations that would help you grow and limitations that don't really bother. So by classifying it like this, I think it would help you to grow.
There is a good framework that you presented in terms of the awareness mindset and the upskilling part of it. If you have to suggest, because the first two of them are the tough nuts, the awareness and the mindset, would you have something specific to suggest there?
So your awareness is through reflecting, thinking, and asking people around you, right? Who you work with closely, or it could be your family, because they would have a better view, because your view into one person's view is always restricted, right? And the people around you would have a better view. So by getting that helps you with your awareness. Mindset is all out here, and if you think that you need to achieve something, whatever that you want, overcoming something or growing with the targets that you're setting yourself, you need to constantly motivate yourself and also see the people around you, if they are contributing and helping you to achieve this mindset, because a person is the sum total of the 5 people they are with, right? The average of that. So surround yourself with the right people and motivate yourself.
So apart from the framework, I think, the desire to, to go along this path, as well as, getting in the motivation which is needed to that is absolutely necessary.
True.
Yeah. We come to the next question, ma'am. This is, India can do with a lot of more leadership skills than it currently has. And that's why it needs more people like you to do that. However, if you look at what's happening there, it's not gained the kind of size or scale which is needed at this stage to multiply, and reach our goals as organizations or as countries. Now, how do you address this issue of lack of leadership skills and building that particular awareness? How do you go about doing that?
Right. So I don't think there's a lack of leadership skills. I think there's a leader in everybody. There's a high performer in everybody. But the difference is we need to channelize our energy in the right direction. Right. So everybody has all these skills, and by enhancing your awareness, wanting to do that desire, having that drive to achieve what you want, and then channelizing your actions, your thoughts, everything in the same direction, I think that would help. And it's not just when we say leadership, I believe leadership is not just one person, but it's a leadership team. Because as a team, you can achieve a lot more, you can accelerate the process, right? And therefore, if everybody is aligned to the common goals, common objectives, and work towards that, I think that will make a whole lot of difference. But you see, what happens many times is each person's idea is different. And then comes along the ego, right? So everybody says like, oh, no, what I'm saying is only right. What you're saying is not right. So these are something that's common. But however, that's where a coach facilitates such discussions, and then getting everybody together on the same page, aligning and ensuring that everybody's working together to achieve the common objectives. I think that would really help. And that makes the difference in my perspective.
If you compare, the level of coaching which takes place in countries where high performance is more visible, and that which happens in, say, a country like India, on the face of it, it looks like there is a need for much more in terms of what is needed. I mean, inputs in one way or the other. It may be a program or it may be something else.
Yeah.
So the questions comes from there. So, if someone is in a particular state, an organization is in a particular state of mind, how does one get across that this is something that needs to be done?
Right. So, I always draw the example from sports. Now, even the best of sportsmen, whichever sport you take, all of them work with a coach, right? So that helps them to get better at what they do. And I say, why should it be any difference in the corporate world? Unfortunately, a lot of corporates, the coaching is still evolving in India, right? As compared to the other developed nations. And the mindset of the people needs to change, to accept the fact that by working with a coach, it's going to help them get better, right? So that basic understanding and the mindset shift needs to happen. And I think when that happens, it becomes a lot better. And also from the coach's perspective, we say a coach works with somebody who's coachable. Because a lot of people say, oh, I am very good at, whatever I'm doing. Why do I need a coach? I am too good. If you have this mindset, then it doesn't help you grow further. You are good, there's no doubt, but can you get better, right? So to understand and to get better, that's when one needs to work with a coach. So this mindset shift, I think, is very important.
And can you give a personal example where perhaps somebody who's had the other mindset, what did you do in order to get them over?
Right. So basically, we go about having conversations and then, educating them and telling them that, listen, you do have a lot of advantages and benefits by working with a coach, and it accelerates the process. Whatever that the goals that you want to achieve, by working with a coach, the entire process gets accelerated and helps you to achieve quickly whatever that you want to achieve. And we share all the benefits with them. So once people are aware of it, right? Again, the awareness is important. So once they are aware of it and, show them some examples of how, like, leaders in Google have also worked with a coach in the US and a lot other organizations. So even Steve Jobs, for that matter, has worked with a coach. So when we give and share such examples, the mind opens up and they become more receptive to working with somebody as a coach.
Very good, ma'am. Very good inputs. And I think you opened up the door for, one more question, but at this stage, I think I'll pause here because we have the deadline. Sure. And I'll hand it back to Professor Rao. If there is time, I'll come back.
I'll play the timekeeper. Thank you, Professor Prasad. Ma'am, it's very interesting, these initial opening remarks and the responses to these wonderful questions that you've made just now is setting the ground for understanding and deep diving into the world of high performance leadership. As we move forward, at this stage, we would like to understand one important difference or similarity. Is high performance leadership akin to a Red Bull kind of performance? Therefore, is it going to lead to a burnout, or is it something else that we'll have to understand and cultivate and sustain it?
Right. So, high performance, the basis of it is that it's you versus you, right? So to see how you can get better It's not like, you're comparing yourself with somebody else and saying, this person has done it, so I have to do it. That's not really what high performance is. But knowing your capabilities, knowing your limitations, and knowing what you want to achieve and within what time frame. So defining all these different parameters and ensuring that, you're getting better at what you do. So as a high performance leader, it's an important thing that you do not allow your teams to get burnt out as well. So therefore, being there, supporting each other, and seeing how you can achieve whatever the common goals that I spoke about, that is what is very important. So I hope that answers your question. Like I
Yes,
said,
it does.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you very much, ma'am. We wanted this to be clarified, and therefore there are several questions from the audience, and there's a kind of a competition to raise the questions as well. But I would like to apply some of the lessons that we have learned in the last 20 minutes. Listening is a very important trait for leaders, and all of us are supposed to be leaders. So let's listen to the speaker first and make sure that your questions are structured in time. And when the mic is open, you can probably raise that question. I will now, I have a list of questions, but I will take the questions from audience straight away. I'll request 3 of them who have actually opened the mic for Ms. Varsha or Kritik or Dr. Vijay. Any of them can take the mic. I think Kritik is ready to ask the question. Over to you, Kritik.
Okay, so far I think you've both put up a lot of good points regarding the need for more leadership skills in modern day society, especially in the workplace. I'm just curious, with the emergence of friend groups and new sorts of teaching curriculums like such as IB, on average, how developed do you think a student's leadership skills and qualities are? Because generally, they learn their own social skills, they learn to be collaborative with their friends, and they do a lot of other stuff with their friends that can be considered, teamwork. So on average, how developed do you think a student's leadership characteristics and skills are?
Okay, wonderful question, Kritik. So I wouldn't differentiate a student's leadership skills, because I think leadership skills are common for everybody. And what I would always suggest is define your leadership skills, because you see, leadership is a vast ocean. It has so many umpteen different things, right? Leadership never goes out of fashion, right? No AI can replace a leader. And therefore, you need to pick what are the critical leadership skills that you need to have as a leader. So therefore, first identify them, and then see out of that, what are those skills that you already possess? And then what are the skills that you think are missing, and then start working on that, right? So it's basically, you are the driver of your own path ahead. So therefore, pick what resonates with you, what is close to your heart, what is more meaningful and purposeful for you. So I would let you be in charge of yourself.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Sangeeta. That answered my question very well. I was simply curious about how well our current generation can, compare to past generations of leaders.
I think the current generation is awesome because they're extra smart, very intelligent, very tech savvy, and they have, so many tools. The internet wasn't there when I was growing up, for example, right? And then now you have your AI, your ChatGPT, so many other things. So that way, it's a whole lot of privileged things. Having said that, I think this generation also gets easily succumbed to things like instant gratification, things like wanting things like, and very quickly, very fastly, just the way they want. Probably sometimes lack a bit of empathy, and not very receptive to getting feedback or even criticism. But if the present generation can identify whatever are their weaknesses, this is just my perspective, but I'm sure there will be a lot more positives and a lot more areas for improvement. But once those can be identified, and then as a collective, together as a team, if you work together and have the ability to overcome this, I think the future is really, really bright, because you guys are like amazing, rocking. so intelligent, so full of energy, so full of creative ideas. So I think you need to see how you can leverage on those things to achieve what you want.
All right, thank
Great,
you so
thank
much, Ms. Sangeeta, for sharing your perspective. And I think I agree with you. You pretty much outlined some major problems that younger generations have in the age of the internet and primarily social media, especially short form content.
Yeah, so you should know to draw a line when you need to, you shouldn't get distracted, and then learn how to focus better.
Great. Thank you,
All right,
ma'am.
thank you very much, Ms.
Kritik.
Sangeeta.
Kritik, you go celebrate. Thank God it's Friday. You've asked 3 questions and wonderful ones at that. Before I go to Dr. Vijay, who's been waiting in the wings actually to ask several questions, and he has been literally competing with you to speak out even in the first segment of opening remarks as well. I appreciate that energy, that high energy to speak and participate. That question I have is, ma'am, how would you help us understand one particular phenomenon that we usually see? India is very different from other countries. Our cultural and social dynamics are very different. Our diversity is very different, not just in society, it reflects even in our complex business environment that we have. How can leaders navigate and adapt themselves for high performance in their leadership roles in a country like India?
That's a great question. So in fact, what when I'm doing my sessions and other things, there are different styles of leadership, right? So the style that I prescribe is adaptive leadership, because, you can't follow the same set of things for different people. You have to customize. Now, it's always easy to say, hey, my team should follow that. But again, just like the question that Kritik asked, younger generation, they have their own different ways of thinking, functioning, and there's a generational divide as well. And, as a leader, you have to succeed. And if you have to get your things done, you must be in a position to adapt yourself so that you can achieve what you want. What are your goals? What are your aspirations? And what are the outcomes that you want to drive? And that is why I always, I'm a big proponent of adaptive leadership. Instead of expecting your team members and others to adapt to the way, it's either to say, it's easy to say my way or the highway. But then if you can adapt yourself and, bring out the best from your team members, you're actually creating a win-win for yourself, your team, and for the business as well. And therefore, I think it's essential for leaders to be adaptive leaders.
Amazing, amazing. Adaptive leadership is what actually sets teams much more aligned, and also not just the team's alignment, but also it is aligned to the organization, and that becomes a consistent effort towards creating a culture for high performance. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll request Dr. Vijay to ask his question. Over to you, Dr. Vijay.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, it was wonderful, ma'am.
Thank you.
And in fact, the present one, what you talked about, the last one, adaptive, is almost, that's what I'm going to ask you. That's part of something called as conditioned behavior. One should be out of their conditioned behavior patterns. For that reason, one should know how they are conditioned. See, each one reflects the way they are. They should understand first self, why am I like this? The reactive elements should be different to given situation. Then you can be a better leader.
Absolutely.
If you know, pardon me?
Self-awareness.
Yeah, it should be known self. Self-awareness comes into condition. How you condition. As the person keeps growing in life, in various circumstances, encounters many aspects of it. And those are all conditioned in the mind, how they react. Instead of like that, one should be in a given situation, adopt to the given situation and deliver the way it requires. That's what I feel so. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure. Thank you very much for my small piece of 2 points.
Thank you.
And next one I want to ask you is what the finance, the book what you wrote, you're talking about.
Right.
Well, I'm PhD in management finance only, by the way.
Lovely.
What the finance you're talking about, even I'm getting thinking what can be finance, what do you mean by finance? What do you mean finance actually, ma'am? The way you handle it, the way you invest, or the way
it's to run business successfully, because the end of the day, I believe that whatever kind of business, big or small, a business has to make money, because The differentiating factor is otherwise you might as well be a charity, right? So if you call yourself as a business, you need to ensure the business is earning sufficiently. So the book talks about some simple and easy ways how you can manage the business, take the right financial decisions, and enable the business to grow further. It also has the wisdom of some of these successful entrepreneurs and business leaders who have shared their financial journey, their mistakes, so that everybody doesn't have to do the same mistakes, right? So I
So
have
now-
simplified it so that even a layperson can understand how the business finance functions.
Well, on that count only, I don't want to mention, but I have to mention that an example, the way you said it. Byju's is the one, they made too much of finance angle point of view. Coming back on what the finance, what you said about it. Yes, finance is the most important. Now, given any given situation, that depends on person's background, from where he or she is coming. So it can be loan basis or a short term or long term or taking partnership. There's so many ways as a financing point of view. We talk about the financing. Okay, long term and short term, various ways of financing are there. Right. So what the finance, when you said it, my point of contention was there's so many finance areas are there to source it.
Yeah.
Agreed. Now, how you make your how you put into action, how you
Dr. Vijay, I think we will make room for questions from others as well. We'll share the email ID of the speaker and we can write questions on the other 3 books that are displayed out there. Where is the Moolah, WTF?
so nice of you. So
Yeah,
nice
we'll
of
do
you.
that.
Thank you.
We'll do that. We'll make room for the questions on the topic that's on hand for us. So such is the enthusiasm to check out everything with you, ma'am. You have a great connect with the audience. That's what I've been mentioning since the beginning of this conversation. The question I have before I go to Dr. Raman Kumar Jha is that leaders often try and delegate responsibilities, but they become a kind of hostile when juniors perform better than them. What is your advice to the so-called leaders in that position, as well as advice to the team members, how this situation has to be handled?
Yes, insecurity, that's pretty common especially in a lot of corporates. They do feel threatened when somebody else, especially the juniors, tend to do better, because that's again due to the fear that they may lose their job or they may become redundant, or what if somebody takes over. Having said that, if the mindset can be shifted from competition to collaboration, right, then a lot more can be achieved. Because like I said, I believe everybody has positive qualities, positive strengths that can be leveraged together. So, like I already mentioned, instead of one person just taking it and running the show, if there are like more people together as a team, they are able to achieve, the outcome is always magical. So therefore, don't look at it as a threat or as competition, but see how you can collaborate together and achieve a lot more.
Great, great. Change in mindset is required from competition to collaboration and harness the energy of the entire team members. But as it is said, one of the members has also commented that the job of leadership is to produce more leaders. And if in your team you can produce more leaders who can handle independent responsibilities and move higher and move bigger than what is the current responsibility, I mean, that's a great measure of the leader that you are. I think that's the way one has to look at. Yes, competition versus collaboration, creating and producing more leaders. I think these are some of the metrics that one should look at. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll request Dr. Raman Kumar Jha for raising his question. Doctor.
Thank you so much. This was one of the best sessions that I have ever attended, though I've been part of leadership for almost 33 years now in educational leadership. But one thing which is a common thread, which was striking all the way while you were speaking, was when you already become a leader, you're supposed to be mature or balanced, and you're supposed to make teams, and at the same time make a balance between the finance and the expenditure, all that you are expert in, I'm not. What comes to handy to me is my consciousness, my self-awareness, as you put it. So this kind of a leadership, which is a conscious leader, is something which relates to almost everything instantaneously, the way it comes. So you as an individual looking through your heart at the situation and balancing both the sides works well for the leadership. That was a suggestion rather than a question, but I thought to just put it there.
Nice, beautiful share. Yeah, very, very nice. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, Professor Saab, for joining and raising that reflection. Thank you so much. I'll request Mr. Suresh to go next. After that, we'll come back to Varshaji.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Sudhakar, and nice to meet you, ma'am, Sangeeta. My question is pertaining to the before that you are the blend of finance and also the leadership. It's a deadly combination for the high performance. Now my question is, as a CFO, what exactly the high performance leadership is, and as an entrepreneur, what exactly the high performance leadership is? I'd like to know this, and also just give me an insight pertaining to the finance and the organizational values, culture, how we can balance. Yeah, thank you. Over to you.
Great, very nice question. So firstly, I think you wanted to understand what is high performance leadership as a CFO or as an entrepreneur, right? So I think the answer is very common. Now, if you ask any finance professional for that matter, we would always say the financial results, the financial performance actually speaks about the business performance, how the business is performed, how the leadership team has performed, and how the teams have performed. So financial performance as such is the blend and the outcome of the performance as a business as a whole. And I think it's no different for an entrepreneur as well. And therefore, if the business is doing well financially and achieving the budgeted numbers and achieving the set targets that we spoke about in the beginning, and probably even exceeding that and getting better, that is what is financial high performance in any business. And you can look at it as a CFO or as an entrepreneur. I think that is what is important. And second thing that you asked about was on the values. Now, values is again something very, very important and essential. I think that's the core of any organization, because the values, mission, vision, the purpose, all of that is what a business and the organization is built upon. And you have to see how all these aspects of the business are inculcated in your leadership. So for example, in a business, integrity could be something that's very, very core, right? And therefore, as a leader of the business, are you ensuring integrity? Quality could be another important value. So are you ensuring quality in your delivery, in your outcomes, in the service that you're providing? Are you ensuring defects are not there, or if at all there also it's at a very minor acceptable level? So these values that are there to see how as a leader, not only you are following it, but also the rest of the organization and your teams are also abiding by those set values. So that is what is important, and that's why values become something that's very, very important for us.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suresh, and thanks, ma'am, for beautifully answering that query. So leader is the custodian of values in the organization, and he or she makes sure that for teams together, for years together, for generations together, the organization stands. Individuals may transit, but the values are permanent, and therefore the results based on values will be a certainty, and there is a definite direction to it. And that's what leaders are supposed to leave their imprints on the DNA of the organizations. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request Varshaji for her question.
Hi, ma'am. This is Varsha. I am doing my BBA third year.
Okay.
I'm still a rookie in this field, so I'm not sure what to ask. But then I would like to ask maybe a suggestion for the students who are yet to become leaders.
Aspiring leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can also see, have role models. See who are the people you like as leaders, and what are those traits that they possess that you would like to work on, and build and strengthen yourself. It could be anybody. It could be somebody, your family member. It could be your neighbor. It can be your friend. It can be somebody in your college. It can be your professor, or it can be, a leader who's leading the nation. It can be anybody. So you identify those particular traits that you think are important and something that resonates with you, that you believe in, and just see how you could develop those skills for yourself. I think that is what I would like to tell aspiring leaders.
Thank you, Mom. Mom, in another question, where well, India has a very traditional things that follow in their mind, whether when it comes to public places, one is not supposed to do something, but then ultimately it you might have to do it. How to handle a situation like that when maybe not getting an effect of their opinions or dealing the situation in a very calm and smooth way?
I would suggest rely on your gut feel and your intuition, and take a call at that moment. Whatever you think is right, whatever you feel is right, just go ahead with it.
Thank you, Varshaji, for that question. You texted out a question, so I opened the mic for you, but I thought you will still continue with that question, but you have muted that question to some extent. Next time around, please put out the question in its naked format. Don't worry about filtering it for us. We are capable of handling that. Next time, come for the next session. We'll be able to give you more answers for those issues that are troubling you. Next time we'll meet you. Thank you. Ma'am, one question I want to read out on behalf of Mr. Sanjay. What are your top recalls and experiences as failures, your own failures that served as lessons for you in your career, which helped you transition from a corporate role to a coach and mentor? It could be seen as positive as well as negative in one shot.
Sure. So one thing that has really stuck on to me over the years is, and what I have learned out of it is, I'll tell you what it is. So as a student, I was doing my graduation, and parallelly, I was also doing my ICWA exam. I was studying for it. To be very honest, like most of you know, ICWA has its inter and then final. The ICWA inter, I actually hadn't prepared much, and I just went and wrote the exam, not really expecting to pass, but then, I had got through. And that, gave me overconfidence, and that ruined, because, I thought, oh, it's going to be something very easy, and, it's a cakewalk. I don't really have to prepare a lot. And it was with that attitude, I went and wrote my final exam, ICWA final, and then needless to say, I didn't get through. And in fact, I think even the second attempt, I didn't get through because I was still somewhere subconsciously thinking that, this is okay, I will be able to easily pass without really putting in any efforts. I hadn't really put in the hard work, prepared well for the exam. And that's when it dawned on me that a lot of it needs to change in my mind. And that's when I realized attitude is something very, very important. So if something is important for you, if you want to achieve something, I think go by your attitude. Having the right attitude is what will take you places. And that I've realized even on the corporate career, because anything, the kind of attitude you approach with, the words may camouflage it for some time, but your attitude is what will show up. People can look through and see through beyond that. And therefore, whatever is important, approach it with the right attitude is what I would like to share.
Thank you, ma'am. Your suggestion to have the right attitude helps you convert the hurdles, obstacles into your opportunities and strengths as you move forward. As in case of your own example of your career, the difficulties, the level of difficulties that you have faced in your examinations, and then thereby it providing some kind of toughness in you, and the results that we are seeing. You are a very good CFO, and you are a very good leader as well. And someone was mentioning that it is non-traditional to see a CFO have all these characteristic features and traits of a good leader and an entrepreneur in you. That's a pleasant surprise. Although we don't want to judge the CFOs like that, but functional performance of CFOs, or the traditional information and impact that we have of CFOs, is that they may not be the front-end leaders, but you look like a marketing leader, you look like a business leader yourself. So that was the point. Thank you so much. I'll request Anita ma'am to raise the question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sangeeta and Sudhakar Ragaru. I was unmuting and muting because I was traveling, so that I didn't want to disturb the flow. My question is, when you very well said that you are competing with yourself, and you got to step up every time. That yardstick would be different at different points of time. So somewhere I get into a tendency of self-judgment, although I find that I have been achieving that yardstick holistically, whether it comes to my spiritual journey or my teaching profession into finance and doing the other relatable things at home. I find that I'm progressing better, but still I find that I'm limiting myself somewhere, all my potential.
Yes.
Right. So when we just go into such kind of pockets at times, so how would you handle, if you had a similar experience? That's my first question.
Okay.
Once you
Yeah, you're not alone in that, Anita. This is something very, very common, even among a lot of successful people, both men and women, and more so women. And this is called the imposter syndrome, right? And everybody tends to go through this at some point or the other in life, and that's quite normal. But you will have to go beyond being biased through your judgments. So your judgments, see, the judgments can be used positively or negatively. Positively to see how you can improve, and look at it from a third person's perspective, because if you were to look at your own self, it becomes a little difficult. But if you were to step aside and then take a call and then look at the reality, that will help you instead of just being biased or being overly judgmental. So you can look up on this imposter syndrome. It's there. Even a lot of successful leaders have gone through this. Some of them have even been open and they have shared about it. So you're not alone in that, but again, you will have to see how you can overcome them and use your judgments to your advantage.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for that.
Thank you. Can I ask one more if time?
Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. As you were saying that when an organization achieves its financial results, that's a measure of a yardstick.
Yeah.
But in the perspective of ESG, the stakeholders are, taking a different call nowadays. It's not just the finance, but it's about taking the, governance as well as the sustainability measures to measure corporate performance.
Right.
So could you throw some light on that, please? Because nowadays it's not just the financial results that matter.
Yes,
but
yes.
It is the overall governance.
Definitely, yeah. ESG is something that's up and coming, and it's a very, very important area because the long-term impact of not just the organization, but I think as the Earth as a planet also has a lot of repercussions on the ESG. And therefore, I would urge organizations to come up with their own ESG checklists, right? To see how, look at it in two ways. One is, how is your organization managing the ESG from internally, right? Like it could be your waste, your affluent, it could be too much excess travel, for instance, different ways, e-waste and everything else. So you could see how you can curb this as an organization. And two is to see how can you offset, because some amount of, all of what I said is bound to be there. If there's a factory, it's bound to have some, affluent things and all that. So you'll have to then see how you can offset it. For example, it could be plant more trees, or it could be river rejuvenation, or whatever it takes to kind of offset that. Maybe if you're, for example, in the paper industry, you're cutting one tree, can you go and plant 3 more trees? Something that you can do to offset. And most importantly, I think the teams need to be educated on this, because not many people have the awareness, right? That, this is something important and what is the kind of impact and the repercussion it has on our planet. So therefore, educating them, enhancing their awareness, and seeing that necessary actions are being taken, I think that will make a whole lot of difference.
Great, great. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
ma'am.
I think
Right, Kamal.
that focus on governance, environment, and the social goals, aligning ourselves for sustainability in the long run is a very important measure of leadership goals. I think one is preparing oneself not for a commitment to an organization that one is working for, but also for the society that we are living in, for the planet on which we are surviving, and for the fact that we are going to bequeath this to the children and the next generations that are going to follow us. So such is the importance of the leadership. Thank you so much for highlighting that, ma'am. I have noticed that Mr. Arun Kauli wants to ask a question, but I will request him to wait. And I'll request Professor Prasad to come in now. Professor Prasad, I have a question for you. With your vast experience of handling multiple diverse teams and providing insights, a proven record of providing insights to micro teams and developing leadership at various levels across the length and breadth of this country, IFCAI has worked with varieties of locations, and a large part of the responsibility was handled by you in the recent past. What are your impressions and how some of these issues were handled by you? Any lessons for us with respect to insecurities among leadership at level 2 or level 3? Imposter syndromes that you would have observed? How did you address it yourself? And what are some of the takeaways, say at least 1 or 2 takeaways for high performance leadership that you ensured when running such a large organization that you handled in the recent past? Professor Prasad.
I think, some thoughts there. Things worked out positively. So, there is always a feeling that there may be something in it. So no one has to be humble, one doesn't know. But let me share what I felt during the journey. First is that everyone has leadership potential in them. The question is, okay, there may be a hierarchy, but at the end of the day, it's team play. So it's a question of knowing how to design that, and at the same time working with people to ensure that that design has meaning, and it fructifies into something which is larger. And their understanding, I think what are the strengths of people and what they can be good at. I think that's extremely important, and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you give an opportunity and then you find that something is working very well. Then sometimes you find it's not working very well. Then you'll have to sit and discuss, and you have to be very open and transparent. I mean, you can't just be positive all the time. Sometimes you'll have to tell upfront that this is what it is. So you'll have to tell it well, but you certainly have to share all those kinds of things. So this is one. The other is for people, the people who don't have that kind of confidence or I think you have to have more conversations with them. There are people who can, overcome that. But I think if there's somebody out there, it may be you or it may be somebody else. But if one has more conversations with them, I think people will kind of start accepting that, yes, there is something which is positive about them, and that somebody else is acknowledging it, and that this really works. I think those conversations help. But the bottom line is, I think we should always aim for people who can do things better than us, at least in parts. There are various parts in which various people can do better than us. So that, I think, is the starting point. So if we are able to trust people for that and look for what needs to be done, I think other things will come along the way.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Wonderful, as ma'am is also trying to respond to that. The 2 buckets of takeaways that you've given is, one is to have a meaningful design to tap into the leadership potential that most of us have for working on what is called results, larger results. The second one you talked about is displaying that empathy for through conversations, for tapping into what is called creating awareness for themselves, so that they get to see the weaker side and also get to see what are the possibilities once that awareness is landed in their lap. I think that's a very, very beautifully put dimensions and facets of leadership. Thank you so much. This draws from the experience that you've had over your long career. Thank you so much, Professor Prasad. Yes, ma'am. Any reflection on that?
Absolutely. I think he said it very well, and you summarized it very well too. So that is good. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll take one for the road from Mr. Arun Kaul. Over to you, Mr. Arun.
Good evening, ma'am. This has been a wonderful session. I've been enjoying it a lot. My question, rather, it's not really a question. It's maybe I'm asking you for your opinion of what's happening in the real world today over there. My question is more about leadership styles. See, what I've seen in India is that leaders have this feeling that you have to use the stick, the rod, you don't spare the rod. Because if you do that, your team will go to sleep and not deliver results. And I've seen some, well, should I say successful, very successful leaders who have delivered in terms of sales revenues, profits, market shares, year after year after year, who have been extremely aggressive, extremely, scream and shout type of a culture, going to the level of using foul language. But they've been very successful. I mean, so I don't know whether, you are in touch with today with the multinationals around. So are there still people like that? I don't subscribe to that culture, incidentally, but I have seen myself that, they push people in such a way that the team members themselves didn't know that they had the capability or the capacity to do certain jobs. And because the leader pushes them to the extent of really, that swim and sink type of a situation. So do you think it really works? I mean, I've seen it working for a very long time for many people, but in today's environment, is it really working? I mean, I just wanted your thoughts on it.
Yes, you are very right in your observation. And like you, even I don't greatly prescribe to that kind of leadership. But having said that, I think it varies along with the organization culture. What sort of culture is prevalent in the organization? And, these things tend to stem from the top. So a lot depends on what is a kind of leadership style, the leadership culture that's being built within an organization. So it needs to get addressed from the top. And if a leader is not that, overly pushy kind, you will notice the rest of in the pyramid, in the organization pyramid as well, everybody tends to fall intact. Now, I don't know if you know about those 5 levels of leadership. The level 5 leadership, the distinction between level 4 and level 5 leadership is, similar to what we said. Level 4 leaders also achieve results, but the difference with the level 5 leaders is they know, they have a lot more empathy and they know how exactly to navigate their way through. So to me, I think it depends on the organization culture. Sometimes if there's too much pressure on, achieving targets, then most leaders tend to pass on the pressure to their team members, right? Because everybody is human at the end of the day. So that is why I said, depending on the culture and how it stems from the top, how things are being handled. Is there psychological safety within the organization, right? How are failures looked upon as a culture in the organization? How does the organization look if you don't achieve the target? What if you've just achieved, say, 80–85% of the target that's given to you? So those kind of things is what defines how the organization handles such things. It could be setbacks, it could be failures, and how the leader is handling it, and how it's shared across the organization. So I think a lot depends on that, but this again varies organization to organization, and sometimes even it depends on the kind of leadership style an individual is following. So that's why it's a mixed bag end of the day, and leaders need to think and reflect to see how they can become better leaders.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I've seen it flowing from the top generally, and then going down the organization. And it also reminds me of the saying that people don't leave organizations or companies, they leave bosses, So this happens when you get a boss with that type of leadership style. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arun, for that wonderful question. Yes, thank you, ma'am, for your response as well. Leadership is always under scrutiny at various stages from both sides of the leader. One at the organizational level, at the board level, at the higher levels, there is a scrutiny, and there's a continuous scrutiny from the team side as well and the stakeholder side. So yes, it's not easy, and strategies vary from situation to situation, organization to organization. and the cultural context in which an organization is performing. That will have to be kept in mind when we are designing some navigational strategies to lead high performance teams. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's been a wonderful 95 minutes that we have engaged. Credit goes to you for holding all of us glued to the screen, and that's been high energy from your side. If I have to quickly capture some of the important aspects as a sum up, there's a lot to talk about it, but let me talk about a few points. Is that you started with clear vision and inspiration that is required from a leader to actually build his high performance teams. And vision is something which what you see, but others cannot. And you see that first, and you lead the entire team and their energy and the alignment to achieve that particular aspect. That is putting your ear to the ground, not just to listen to the sound of the water, but to actually grasp the tremors on the ground, being very close to the ground, keeping your eyes and ears open. I think these are some of the things that you have helped us understand in building a pathway, and then of course building the teams through the culture. The culture, the pillars of the culture have also been explained extremely well. And everything is happening because you define this as something, high performance is something as superior results at high standards. I think that's what stays with us. Your framework of taking stock is very interesting. And that was tested with some examples through questions as well. And it is extremely useful to go and practice. Your years of experience and some of the lessons that you have drawn from your own sessions at various organizations, your clients, has given a great deal of one, clarity, and also a great deal of hope that in fact through coaching and mentoring we can build high performance teams. And there are skills that are required, there are strategies that are required, but these level 4, level 3 leaders can actually grow into level 5 leaders if they actually imbibe some of these strategies. Thank you so much. I'm sure I have not read the book, but I'm sure I'm going to read that book very soon. You have used many more examples drawn out of your own experience and observation. Quite eager to read that book, and also the other 3 books that you have displayed over there. From brainstorming to desert storming, digging for water, all these examples that you have given. But here, one thing that stands out is on the softer side of the leadership, I am because we are. Nobody is in isolation a leader. Nobody is appointed on a pedestal like a leader. The leader is someone who is accepted and all together lead for certain business results or the organizational results. And therefore, that is leadership. So I am because we are kind of a definitions. And high performance leadership, as you mentioned, is you versus you. That is the definition. And it is not you versus others. You and others is probably what we defined earlier when I said I am because we are. But the second one is basically you versus yourself, that refined thinking and awareness one have to work on. And then varying situations look at you and test your leadership. And that's where adaptive leadership is supposed to be. Conscious leadership, adaptiveness, and collaboration instead of competition is what you've advised is required. And the integrity with which you lead the teams will again become the cultural template of the organization. Integrity for quality, integrity for values. I think all these things will help us, help the organizations move forward in the longer sense. And the other important dimension that we touched upon through Q&A is also the fact that today we are building organizations through right leadership for diversity and inclusiveness, for sustainability, digital sustainability, organizational sustainability, environmental sustainability, and of course we are designing the organizations through right leadership for impact. I think impact has to be measured much beyond the bottom lines that we are traditionally used to. It is the ESG that we will have to work on, the triple bottom lines approach that we'll have to take. I think the new age leadership will have to gear up for handling all these aspects, and some of the lessons that you have explained and cited will be useful for youngsters as well as mature leadership. A very important fact here is that if there are experienced people, employees and team members in the organizations, do they need mentorship? Yes, they all need mentorship as we explained. mentorship is something which we have to understand in the right perspective. Like the way you have given example of very good sportsmen, very good cricketers, for example, they also have a working relationship with a coach. So there's somebody who is outside the team, but in the bigger circle of the team, constantly traveling, working, just not playing, but mentoring the entire team. They're always on the ground, but not in the battlefield. I think that kind of mentorship will definitely help, and we can take a Q or two out of this and apply it in our own domains. As someone was asking, how can high performance leaders or leadership in management help political governance? Yes, political governance does not come in isolation. It doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from our own society. And our society is comprising of our offices, our institutions, our social organizations, so on and so forth. So if we have high performance leader concept understood carefully, I'm sure that will also transpolate to doing very well in other domains like politics or civil life and everywhere. So thank you so much, ma'am. We would like to have this conversation going with you. We have really enjoyed talking to you. As I said, credit goes to you. We will keep writing to you. I request you to share your PPT. We will make a summary and we'll publish that summary on our archives along with the edited video, and that will be there for those people who are interested in watching this video subsequently. A large number of them go back and look at the archives and they learn from it. We have a text summary as well as a video summary available for them to look at the entire conversation. We want to thank you on behalf of everyone here, all the leaders that have joined from various walks of life, on behalf of everyone at IFCAI, on behalf of Professor Prasad. Thank you so much for your time, energy and expertise in defining the HPL, high performance leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen.